Hello, everyone, and welcome to this timeline jumping webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to be talking about this topic of timeline jumping because it is the opportunity for all of us to finally leap into the new life that we love. My name is Radha or Gina. I'll be your host today. I've been studying with Dr. Pillai for over 14 years, and I am really honored to be passing this information on to you, especially about this topic because Dr. Pillai has been talking about it and researching it and delving into this topic for the past 6 to 8 months. And I had the honor of being around him as he was developing the content and practicing the techniques on us, those around him, and really immersing himself in this topic. So when we ride the wave of Dr. Pillai's, let's say, empowerment or energy, he is able to infuse that into us more and more. So this is certainly the topic of interest to him right now and really has been in all of 2014. So what are we going to do today? Today we will be talking about the 5 core teachings that I really just boiled down from what I've heard Dr. Pillai talk about for the past 6 months on this topic. Many of them are in the timeline jumping course, but today we're going to go through these 5 steps or these 5 teachings so that you walk away with value, so that whether you join the course or not, you're able to take these teachings and start implementing them in your life today. And that's really the point of this webinar, to make sure that you get value. So here it is. Here's what we're going to walk through today. So planetary influence. We're going to learn how the planets influence our everyday life and how we use that energy to our advantage as opposed to our disadvantage. We're going to learn to create our day powerfully and successfully. We're going to learn about the acceleration of time so you don't have to wait for your manifestations. We are going to learn about breaking unwanted habits because what they do is feed into our current timeline. And we'll learn about being in the now, but in a different way probably than you've ever heard. So before we get into the concept of, before we get into these 5 teachings, what I'd like to do is just get familiar with timeline jumping and why you would want to get into this topic here and what it is. So oftentimes we feel stuck and we have no control over our circumstances. And is this something that you often experience on a daily basis or once in a while? Take a look at your life. Do you sometimes feel as if you have no control over your circumstances? Do you feel stuck? Do you feel like you have no control over the state of your relationships, your health, your wealth, your spiritual evolution? Like no matter what you do, you always end up in the same situation. I can relate to this on some levels of, feeling like things just aren't moving. Why aren't they moving? I want a new destiny. I want something different to happen. And instead of taking action or doing something about it, oftentimes it feels like life just happens. We get stuck in our daily tasks and our routines, and we just keep going on that same path. Unfortunately, we are not alone. A lot of people are experiencing exactly that same thing, and it's creating kind of a rut with people in masses feeling like they can't get out of their current circumstances. Fortunately for us, Dr. Pillai is passionate about this topic, passionate about helping people change their destinies and create the life that we truly want right now, without the wait. He has often said that his city power or his miraculous power is not to manifest something out of the thin air, but to change people's destinies, and that he's really happy about that power that he has. So let's start by understanding what a timeline is. Your current timeline is your destiny, and your destiny is time. There's a quote on here that says, everyone has a destiny. Destiny starts at some point and reaches a destination. Dr. Pillai has said that that's why your destiny is your destination. It's where we're going. right? So we each have a timeline, a predetermined life course, which we are destined to follow. And everything that we do and think and create continues down that path unless we break that pattern. And it's our current timeline or destiny that makes us feel stuck. Like I said, if we're continuing down that path, we're not jumping to something new. And this feeling feels like it goes on into our future, right? Because if we keep doing the same stuff, we're just continuing on that path, and the next day leads to the next day, and before you know it, 3 years have gone by, and our present moment becomes our future, so on. But really, the future doesn't exist, right? We only have this present moment. And it's from this moment you create your future timeline through every thought, every action, and every emotion. The timeline jumping techniques allow you to experience your true desires today by taking control of your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. So what is a timeline? A timeline is simply a potential destiny or destination. Most people are experiencing their probable timeline. We were born into a timeline. This timeline is based on influences such as from karmic influences such as planetary influence, genetics, soul genetics, past life karma if you believe in past lives, and current life karma. Actions becoming reactions, becoming circumstances which we deal with right now. So those karmas make us feel stuck inside our timeline, but they are not fixed, and that is precisely what Dr. Pillai's teachings are all about, being able to break this karma, break the timeline, and literally jump into something new. So I want you to take a ride with me for a moment into imagining what your new timeline would look like. So just stop whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're doing, and dream with me for just a minute here. If it were really possible to experience an alternative reality, what would it look like for you? What would your money situation look like? What would you do on a daily basis? Would you live your purpose and only do the things you love to do? Would you experience caring, harmonious relationships? What would your family situation look like? What would your spiritual situation look like? So just dream into this new timeline for just a moment. So what we're going to do today is receive the information that it'll take to break our current timeline and jump into this new one that you just created, albeit very quickly. When you're at home by yourself, you can do that exercise longer, and I encourage you to do that, to really dream up your new timeline, put passion into it, write it down, set goals around it. Because you have to know where you want to go before you can get there, right? You may know you want to get to New York City from California, and you may not know exactly how to get there, but at least you know what the destination is, what that new destiny is for you. Okay, so all these techniques are actually dependent upon being able to set your goals and know what it is you want to manifest. And the key is understanding the truth about time. Time being our destiny, time being our current circumstance. One of the problems with this situation is that the information has never been taught before, so people around the world unfortunately don't have access to it until now. Dr. Pillai has been revealing these teachings and revealing the exact knowledge required to make our mastery of time and the ability to change the destiny of reality. So this gives you the ability to change the course of your life and experience that new reality we just dreamed up and live the life you desire today. So how does it work? There are a number of steps I mentioned, and I'm going to break these down into easy to follow steps designed to guide you to mastery of time. To demonstrate that in a very practical manner, let's explore these 5 steps, and they are practical because they are something you can start implementing right now. So your steps, 5 steps or teachings to create a new destiny. Like I mentioned, understanding the planets and their influence, how to create your day for success, accelerating time and the archetype of time, breaking bad habits that feed your current timeline, being conscious, being in the now, and how that simple concept can transform your life. So let's start with planetary influence. If you've been around Dr. Pillai a lot, you know that he talks about the planetary influence quite a bit. In fact, he has another company, astroved.com, which focuses entirely on astrology and the impact of the planets on our life. So what we're going to learn today is how to understand the planets and then use that in our daily life to create action that is supported by the planet that you're under the influence of. Sounds like an alcohol or something, right? But you're under the influence of a planet energetically. We feel them whether we're conscious of it or not. So this is a very important chart. I'm going to leave this slide up for a bit. You can write these down, and we can even send this off to you. So here's the daily planetary influences. We have the day, we have the planet, we have the characteristics of that planet, and we have the mantra. So things to do on a regular basis to allow the influences of the planets to work in our advantage. 1, when you wake up in the morning, acknowledge the planet of that day. If you don't remember the mantra, that's fine. Just acknowledge, "Oh sun, please bless me with your energy." If that's all you can remember, do that. But if you can remember the full thing, "Dear sun, please bless me with your bright, empowering energy. Om Suryaya Namaha." So today is Friday, ruled by Venus. Oh Venus, Om Shukraya Namaha. Bless me with romance, luxury, sensual pleasures. So you'll see how you can use this chart for any planet, for any day, to be able to access them and ask for their blessings. Now this information is very important as we move into the hourly influences too, because these same planets are going to be impacting us every hour. So I'm going to keep leaving this here for a minute, so you can write this down if you want, or just kind of take note mentally of these main components. What you also want to be aware of is that these planets can be impacting you differently than someone else. So it's really custom in terms of how your astrology chart looks. And what you want to do is take note of how the days go for you. So maybe Mondays are moody for you and you are feeling overwhelmed. It's because Mondays are ruled by the moon. Moon rules the mind, right? Or maybe your moon is in a really good place and you rock it on Mondays, right? You love getting back to work or doing whatever you do on Mondays. So take note of how these influence you. We do have some general collective information of how people generally react. For example, Mondays are usually something that is a little tough for most people, and maybe it is because it's ruled by the moon and that our emotions and our mind get in the way of things. It could be that it's the first day of the work week, right? Friday is ruled by Venus, luxury, beauty, sensual pleasures. People go to the movies, they go to dinner, they enjoy these, they go on dates, they enjoy the energy of Venus. Maybe it's because it's the last day of the work week, right? But still, these planets have an influence over the energies of that day. So you want to plan your week so that the activities you do on each day is conducive to the energy of that planet. This is very important, okay? So there's 2 things you're going to do with these daily influences. 1, you're going to wake up every morning and acknowledge the planet of the day. If you can say the mantra, great. If you can't remember, that's fine too. Just acknowledge the planet and ask for the blessings. Then you're going to plan your week so that the activities you do fall upon the days that are conducive to that activity. And you can see here what that is. So Tuesdays are very action-oriented, very driven. They can be a little fiery because that's how Mars is. So just be careful not to get into arguments maybe on Tuesday. Again, look at what your habits are around these days and planets. Wednesdays, great for anything having to do with money, or Mercury's good for anything having to do with money, communication. Jupiter, blessings, wisdom, teachings, optimism, a very abundant and the most benefic planet. Saturn, generally not good for anything that you want a positive outcome with. So don't be having an important meeting during on a Saturday or during the Saturn hour. We'll get to how that hour works. Sun, you think of it as ever-glowing energy, right? Light. Sun happens to be a great day for me. Sundays are great days for me because I must really be receptive to energy, and I just get so much done on Sundays. I love it. So that's a bit about each of the planets. Now, I promised we'd get into the hourly influence, also called a hora, just another word for an hour. So every hour of the day is also ruled by the planet. What you want to do is, this is our third to do now about planetary influences, is find the planet that rules each hour and plan your activities around those hours so that it supports the energy that the planet gives out. Just like we do with our days, now we're going to break it down into the hourly level. If this feels overwhelming, start with your days and get to this next after you feel like you've mastered that. Nothing should feel like it's too much or overwhelming to you. An example here, Jupiter gives blessings, wisdom, teaching, optimism. An action you can do during that hour that's ruled by Jupiter is reading, learning, teaching, anything you need positive support for, because it's such an abundance of positivity and optimism. Okay, so the same information we learned on this page of the daily planetary influences is what we're also going to apply to our hourly influence of the planet. So how do you find this information? Here are the tools you want to take note of. Astroved.com is your place to be for anything having to do with Vedic astrology. So if you go to astroved.com homepage, I put this little picture in there where you can see on the homepage itself, it gives good and bad times. As long as you create, I think you have to create the location. I'm not sure even if you have to do an account, but you want to create an account anyway. It's really good stuff. On the home page, you get to set your location. There's do's and don'ts. There's information. It's the hora or the hour. It's the star of the day. It's a moon phase of the day. All the information you really need is there. If you want to go a little deeper, which I do, and I love these apps, there's something called the Hora Watch. You just go to the App Store and search on Hora Watch. Right now, these are only available on Android. The iPhones will be coming back soon. The Hora Watch, I think, was just temporarily removed from the Apple Store recently, but it'll be back after some updates. The Hora Watch will give you information on the daily list of the horas, or the planetary influences of the hour, which is great because then you get to plan your day around it, right? So it's not just happening this moment. You get to know in advance where all these planets are throughout the day, and then schedule your activities into what your day would look like so that it's most conducive to the energy of that planet. How cool is that, right? This is such new technology that no one does this. Only, I believe, Dr. Pillai is teaching this. The Panchang 5-element app goes into more depth of why these influences are important that day, what's good to do, and gives you more information to go deeper than the Hora Watch. The Hora Watch just says, here's the information. Here's your planets, here's your moon phase, here's your star, etc. So another place, if you don't have an app and you want to get into a little more detail and lay out the planets of the hour for the whole day, you would go to the Planetary Watch report on Astrobed, and you can then print that out. So hopefully we got that right. Make sure that you guys know this is a really important aspect of the teachings to breaking patterns and jumping to a new timeline. Because we're going to be working with the energies of these planets. In the actual program, the Timeline Jumping online program that Dr. Pillai taught, we go into the star and the moon phase as well. But for right now, all you need to do is start with the planet and build from there. Just get that down first. So step 2, creating our day. The information that I just taught on the planets is going to be paramount in you using that for creating your day. How time management and your awareness of time itself can dramatically improve your destiny, and that's what I mean by using these planetary influences. We will no longer be going against the flow of the energy that is there to support us, right? Why would we want to try to do something on a day where it's just not conducive, right, to the energy that is available? So you may not want to try and make peace negotiations on a Tuesday, for example. You may not want to meet with an ex to reconcile something or negotiate something on a Tuesday, because that's a fiery energy and it can cause some issues to be raised. So creating your day, I mentioned earlier that we need to set goals. We need a vision and a destination of what we want. So you can break that down in how those goals will be directed towards your day, right? We have our long-term goals, but what's your goals for today that lead you to that long-term vision? It's important that we always know where we're going every day. There's always that destination, that vision, that focus. Schedule your day in advance. Don't let the day happen to you. Again, use the planetary influences to schedule your day. Manage your time around the planetary influences. Make sure you're scheduling stuff that helps you facilitate a flow of energy as opposed to something that is more resistant or stopping. Some tips and tricks. What I like to do is the night before, write everything out. So you can just get a notebook, use the tools that I mentioned, whether it's the app or the online report, and write out, and this is literally what I did last night, write out the times that the planets change and what planet is ruling that hour, and then I schedule in stuff I'm going to do that is conducive to that time. So Saturn hour, for example, I should go make food, right? Because I can't, that's not like necessary for my career or a relationship that I get it right, or exercise or something to that effect. During Mercury hour, you may want to balance your checkbook or do something having to do with your finances, talk to your wealth manager. Jupiter is good for anything that you want a positive outcome for. Okay, so hopefully you're getting the point here of how we can manage everything around. And creating your day is not just about kind of writing these things down. It's also about the intention you bring to your day. And that goes in with the setting of your goals. I kind of blend it in there too. What do I want to happen today? How do I want this day to be different? You have the power every single day to create a magnificent day. Are you doing it? Or are you letting the day just happen? Okay, sometimes we have to remember that we are the owners of our destiny, and that with our minds and our creative force, we get to change that direction and we get to timeline jump. But we have to be aware of it in order to put that into practice. Step 3, accelerating time. Dr. Pillai says, I'm going to teach you how to get the future into the present. He is always about not waiting for every single thing. He hates to wait. And that comes through in his teachings. Waiting is a waste of time. And more importantly, he teaches how to bypass that slow time with the archetype of time. So what's an archetype? An archetype is an expression of super intelligence. Something super intelligent. Think about that for a minute. Something beyond human, into an intelligence that is beyond our brain. Archetypes have been present in our current culture, our modern culture, and pre-modern culture. For thousands of years, all cultures around the world have dealt, not all, but many have dealt with archetypes. For this one, he is the controller of time, and it is possible to harness his energy to help jump to alternative timelines, which is precisely why Dr. Pillai teaches about Kala Bhairava. He is the archetype or god of time. He is literally timeless. And it is through his energy that we're able to make that leap. And what you want to do here is build a relationship with him, right? So he is this being who is available to us energetically. And just like any type of relationship that you build, just like creating a relationship with a human, you want to get to know them, right? Find out about his qualities. Look it up on the internet, do a search on Kala Bhairava, find out what he looks like, get pictures, get to know him, talk to him, ask him to talk to you, call his name, Kala Bhairava. You could say Om Kala Bhairava Namaha as the mantra, or you can just say his name. His name is the mantra. So it's a beautiful thing to create a relationship with an archetype. Dr. Pillai could teach a course on this. He's talked about it so many times, and he is very much in tune with these archetypes and wants us to also be in tune with them. So build a relationship with Kala Bhairava, and you too then will be able to take on his energy. So when we build a relationship with these archetypes, we start vibrating with them. You see? So Kala Bhairava literally is timeless, and he bypasses slow time, and he gets things done fast. And when you vibrate with him, you start being able to bypass slow time, get things done fast, not having time be an issue. So that's the fun part, right? Fun, build a relationship with him. He is a fierce Hindu god. There's also other gods, Kronos. If you look them up, you can find them. If you're not into Kala Bhairava, that's okay. Find another archetype who is accelerative of time. Step number 4, we want to break habits that are binding us. Our lives are filled with recurring thoughts and actions which become recurring practices we call habits, right? And oftentimes, the unwanted habits or bad habits are what have us feel stuck, because we just keep doing things over and over, almost as if we are in some sort of mindless robotic thing. Have you had that experience? I have. It's like, why am I doing this again? I don't want the outcome of this action, but I'm doing it anyway. So Dr. Pillai calls these feeders, which I think is genius. Our timelines are created by identifiable feeders, which can be diffused in order to eliminate their influence on us. But these feeders are really our habits. They're something that happens to us in many levels. So they can be processes, thought processes, which play out in our relationships. They play out in how we think of ourselves and others. They start to define how we see the world. I also sometimes think of them as filters, like things that kind of filter out the true essence of what the truth is, really. So when these habits are feeding into the current timeline, it makes it hard to jump to a new one. And what we want to do is now break these habits or feeders so that we can more easily move into a new timeline. think about it as an animal or, something you feed that grows. Your timeline is just like that. And that's why I think it's brilliant that he calls it a feeder. So you have this current timeline that you're on. You're like, oh, I'm on this destiny, on this path. And I've got these habits, and these habits that I just keep doing, keep feeding the current timeline. It makes that timeline stronger, right? Like, so you're feeding this timeline, and it's just growing. It's becoming more of a monster that you're trying to get out of. Stop feeding it these habits and these thought processes and these actions, and that timeline won't be as strong. It won't be something you're stuck to. So how do you identify a feeder? A feeder is pretty much anything that kind of causes you unhappiness, or like a negative feeder is anything that causes you unhappiness. So if you kind of take stock at how you're feeling and track that back, so okay, something happened and I'm not happy. What was it that happened? What triggered a reaction in me? An example, a really big example, because I don't know, I don't really know anyone who hasn't had some sort of victim mentality at some point. So being a victim is a really big feeder, because when we're being a victim, we're not being responsible for our life. You're being a victim when you're placing blame on someone else. If it is ever anyone's fault, you're being a victim, right? Like, how do I know if I'm being a victim? If you're ever placing blame, you're being a victim. If you feel helpless, you're being a victim. If you feel like you have no control over yourself or the situation, you're being a victim. These are signs, right, that you're being a victim. I picked this one because it is such a big one. You could, on a daily basis, we could probably look at, is there anywhere ever we're not being responsible for our life? And I mean down to the most granular level of anything that happens to you in your life, are you being responsible for that? So many times it's really easy to say, well, it just happened. I was born into this family, or I don't know, I had a really bad day at work. These people are being really, unfair to me. Well, you had that job and you decided to incarnate into this body and you went to work today, right? So if you take responsibility from that level, like that really low level, then you put yourself into a situation where people were being unkind, for an example. And guess what? You also have the power to remove yourself from that situation or change that situation. And I know oftentimes we do feel helpless, but again, that's the victim coming out. And the victim has so many faces and hides in so many dark corners in our life. That's why I picked this one. It's such a good one. We could we could spend years on unraveling the levels of victimhood that we grasp onto in order to not feel like it's our fault, right? So take a look at this feeder. It's a really fun one to explore. I mean that in a way that it is sometimes literally fun to me to look at, like if I start getting cranky, I'm like, oh, that's me being a victim. Oh, that's me feeling helpless, and unraveling that. So key here is not to beat yourself up. Don't make it mean something like I'm bad. It's just what it is. It's a trigger that happens in your mind and your emotions, and that's why we're talking about it, so that you can be responsible for it and you can look at it and you can stop feeding that energy, stop feeding the victim. And when you do that, you'll be able to let go and more easily jump to something new. You don't want to be in that place of blame and anger and being a victim. You want to be in a place of happiness and empowerment. Right? And by letting that go, you can move into there. And then you're literally jumping timelines. Okay, a timeline isn't your everything happens, your entire life is shifted, and then you're in that new timeline. There's multiple little timelines. Your happiness is a timeline, right? And so when maybe your job is the same, but your happiness is different. So you jump timeline from victim to happy, victim to joy. So count all of your accomplishments, right? Don't let anything go, it was little. Count it, right? Add it to, I jumped that timeline. I no longer feel like a victim on a daily basis when I go to my job. I no longer feel a victim when I'm faced with my sibling or my family member because they're putting me down. I stood up to them, I created a boundary. Now I have an empowered area of life as opposed to something that was miserable, right? All of that counts. All of that is feeding and restricting the feeding of particular habits. Step 5, being in the now. We've heard this concept many times, and in this case, I feel like it's slightly different the way Dr. Pillai approaches it. Yes, we are being in the now. By being in the now, you are consciously aware of everything in this moment. Not tomorrow, not later, not before. Letting go. Just take a few seconds with me to do this. Don't think about what you have to do after this webinar or in the next minute. Don't think about what happened yesterday or an hour ago. Just be right here. What is right here with you? Silence, if you do it right. Right? It's emptiness. And from that emptiness, we get to create anything we want. And when we create that silence, that consciousness throughout the day more and more, we get to be present to our power, our possibility, what we can do. We get to change our timeline instead of letting it continue, because it's that past and that future that continues our timeline. So just think about that for a minute. And when we are able to take that consciousness, that awareness, that being present, that being in the moment, and do it throughout the day, we're just taking a deep breath, letting everything else go, and being here. Being here now. So there's that. There's really just stopping and being, right? But then there's also the mindfulness, or the being consciously aware of everything. That's where I like to think of like being in the now, putting it into action. And that's where I feel that Dr. Pillai has a different and unique take on this. Yes, we can stop and be in the now, and that's not a new concept. But what about creating consciousness around everything, about our thoughts, our time, like we just did? By putting the practice of acknowledging the planets and knowing what's happening, you're creating consciousness and awareness around your time. Time isn't just flying by anymore when you're putting this into play. And then you can take action around that. You're consciously creating your life on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. That to me is so cool. So how do you do this? Because it's not always easy. We do get caught up and we do forget, and the mind just goes, and our obligations just happen throughout the day, and we have to be in tune with them too, and we have family and we are responsible. Well, we have to set reminders. I do anyway. Maybe you don't have to, but I have to set reminders. I have to set alarms, calendar notices. Let's say maybe you have a beeping watch. Maybe you put Post-it notes around the house. You put reminders in your car, wherever you go on a regular basis that you know you'll see. Maybe in the cabinet, whatever it is. Set reminders for yourself to be present, be acknowledging time, acknowledging your thoughts. Dr. Pillai has often talked about thinking about what you're thinking about, so that you're not wildly going off on some tangent of negativity, because that thought pattern is creating the energy that you're living in this moment. And that's what we don't want. We don't want the negative influence of that. And again, coming back to honoring the planets and seeing what's happening. Maybe you tend to have negative emotions during a certain planetary hour. Take note of it so that you can set a reminder for yourself and say, okay, I'm going to take this on. If Mars or whatever it is that gives you negative thoughts, Saturn, comes along, I'm going to do something else. Maybe I'll just write a mantra for an hour, right, to offset the negativity, so that at least that negativity isn't influencing you in a negative way that's going to affect your life. The other thing you can do is take a few seconds, however many you have, after you become aware, and just do a quick meditation. Put energy or light into the third eye or midbrain and visualize your new timeline that we quickly created. Hopefully you'll spend some more time creating that timeline. But as you become aware throughout the day, maybe it's once a day, then maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10, then maybe it's hourly, then maybe it's every 30 minutes. We create the habit of being aware and doing this mini meditation, just a few seconds whenever you can, putting light in the third eye and the midbrain and visualizing your new timeline and empowering it. Okay? So these practical steps really can alter your experience of reality. Hopefully you're able to see through what we learned today and how that can make a difference. I really encourage you to give them a try. Give it your all. See what you can do. These 5 core teachings from the basis of time mastery and your ability to jump to alternative timelines. These are the core teachings. And they really do need to be practiced on a regular basis, daily if possible, in order to see a change. Dr. Pillai guarantees that they work. He just doesn't guarantee that we're going to do them, right? So that's on us. You have now the teachings that you need to put them into place on a regular basis to make a change in your life. So hopefully you can see now how much these teachings can make a difference if you practice them every single day. Just by what we went through today. I can tell you, you'll be amazed because I have seen the difference, and I am not the perfect student. I've been studying with Dr. Pillai for many years, but still I have the same challenge of being able to do the practices all day long and on a regular basis. Things happen and we get distracted. I get distracted. But the more I do them, I do know the more progress I see. So I'm encouraging you to give it a shot. If you can't do all 5, start with what you can do 1. Right? Start with the planetary influences. Get that down. Or if that's overwhelming to you, start with doing the third eye, focusing on the third eye as much as possible throughout the day when you become aware. Okay, take what you can and do it. Commitment is key. We've learned 5 core techniques for implementing a timeline and creating a timeline jump in our lives today. Like I said, the trouble is we don't often do it on a regular basis, but please make that commitment that this is something you're going to do. I want to hear from people. I want to hear the changes that in your life that has happened. That is the most rewarding thing in my existence, is hearing from people who've used Dr. Pillai's teachings and made a difference in their life. Because when you make a difference in your life, you make a difference in the lives of those around you. You change the world when you change yourself. And that is beautiful. And the more of us can get that and make that happen, the more empowered and energetically high the world will be. So I will be taking questions and answers on everything that we went through today. But before that, I want to talk a bit about the course that Dr. Pillai created on timeline jumping. I mentioned it earlier that he's been working on these teachings for all of 2014. He's really excited about it, and I'd like to show you a little bit about what he's been working on. So we just released this course. It's funny because in January he talked about how he was going to create the course. It never happened. People were emailing us, "Where is this course?" And I think it just he had to do it in his own time to be able to have the material that he wanted to present. And here we have it. The wait is over. The program is incredible. There's 5 modules. We've had a total of 8 weeks of guided calls, but there was one last week, so there's 7 live teacher calls left. The foundational teaching is over an hour video with Dr. Pillai. There's 3 core meditation techniques. There's 7 mantras. There's more than 4 text companions, which means they're documents that you can print and take home with you. When you join the program, we have all this information inside of a membership website which you have lifetime access to. So I'll just walk you through the foundations of the teachings as well as what's in each module. So in module 1, we pretty much give you everything up front of the teachings for these core foundational teachings. There's a lot of information because then what we do is we break that information out in the other modules into more granular levels so that you can go deeper. So kind of like, okay, it's kind of like read the entire manual, and then we're going to go through it in detail so you learn it and you get it right over the course of 8 weeks, as well as 5 different modules. So as I mentioned, 1 hour, over an hour video with Dr. Pillai. You can download the audio of that teaching. A lot of what he teaches is corresponding to similar concepts to what I said today, but he goes into more detail, right? So planetary influences, he goes into the planets and the stars and the moons of every day and how those energies are influencing us and how to track them. And then he goes into creating your day, setting goals, taking on your life in the next level, creating an outrageous life. It literally says, creating an outrageous life, creating an outrageous day. Going deeper into the feeders and going deeper into being aware of our time and shifting things. There's a community aspect of the program where people are able to get together and share what their experiences are. So, sorry, back to this slide. I got a little distracted. So the daily meditations, there are 3 of them. There's the 1-minute meditation. So as I was mentioning to you, being alert and using an awareness technique throughout the day, he gives a 1-minute technique which has, it's really a siddha technique where he uses breath and focus in particular areas of the body to open up energies to bring intelligence into us, and also uses the god of time, Kala, to accelerate our time. So every day we have this 1-minute meditation to do throughout the day as much as possible. Very powerful. There's a 5-minute meditation that is on the go. So if you don't have time to do a longer meditation, we condensed it for you so that you can do it during lunch or on your way to work or before dinner or anything, but just be able to get it in, because we know people have busy lives and we wanted to create the most practical approach. There's the 20-minute core meditation. I love this meditation because it has, first half of the meditation is all about the feeders, right? So in the program, there are 8 feeders that Dr. Pillai identifies, and he goes through them to unravel them in a meditation. So think about how I was talking about being a victim. And I said, remember how the victim kind of hides in many dark corners. He's so ingrained in us. And this meditation kind of deeply uproots those feeders, that energy that we hold, that anger, that blame, the victimhood. And through Dr. Pillai's voice and his empowerment and this meditation and mantras that go with it, it helps to relieve that on a very deep level, beyond our consciousness. So I really love that meditation. And the second half of the meditation takes 2 different mantras, combines them to let us experience that freedom of light filling our bodies and our minds so that we can get beyond all of our constraints and helping us to move into a timeline, a new timeline. The text companions that I mentioned, there's a daily practice guideline. So everything you need to know to do in a day is written here. So we take the guesswork out of everything. Everything is transcribed so you can not only listen but also read. There's a workbook on how to overcome the feeders, and then there's a whole outline of Dr. Pillai's notes that he literally created when he was creating the program. Also in Module 1, we have all of these mantra tracks, a unique Kala mantra to transcend time. It is longer, very powerful. Mantra to activate the midbrain, mantra for bliss and prosperity, mantra for healing, letting go of the destructive habits, like I mentioned in the process meditation to let go of your feeders, a mantra for infusing light into the mind and body, and these are 2 unique variations. Module 2, we get into goal setting. Like I said in the beginning, we need to have that destination, that new destination that we want to create, creating an outrageous life. So we have an exercise on setting your goals, tips on how to do that, and remaining alert, using that meditation on a daily basis, on a regular basis, to remain alert and be able to shift our timeline more quickly. We use the Kala and this sitta technique to be more focused on the goals at hand and creating an outrageous life and creating your day. That's all within this module. Time management. Okay, we touched upon planets, and as I mentioned, there's the stars and the moons, and we give you these detailed charts and all the information you need in order to get started on that. We give you downloadable daily charts to help you not only know the characteristics and the names of all of the planets and the stars and the moons, but then how to use them. There's a really great workbook. So I mentioned to you that I'm writing down the name of the planet and the time, but really I have this workbook where I just need to, there's a picture of the workbook later, I'll show it to you, where all I need to do is put the time in and everything else is in there. And it gives everything I need right there. It's a little worksheet, really, I use on a daily basis. How to use the horas. We have additional audios from the teachers of that course, because this course was already taught about a month ago, and bonus audio from Dr. Pillai on how to use these hours. He really makes it as simple as possible because he's about simplicity and practicality. We give you 2014 Astrobit calendar online, and basically everything you need to get started with the divine time management. In module, module 4, we are disrupting our feeders. Like I mentioned, these habits that are created. So there's this process meditation that Dr. Pillai gives to deeply release these feeders. I think it's brilliant. He identifies 8 feeders. There are more feeders in the world, but he identified these first 8 as something important to start focusing on removing right away. So he clearly identified these as very important ones. And it's great to use when you learn these feeders and then start looking at, I have anyway, started looking at how they jump into my life. Like, ooh, am I being, there's a feeder, oh, there's a feeder, oh, there's a feeder. It's interesting to kind of break it down and putting this into practice. One of the things I love about this course is how practical it is and how it's a very daily application course. And this is different than what Dr. Pillai has taught in the past. A lot of times he gives a meditation, he says, go do this, it'll work. And it does. But this course is really hands-on with the user, right, with the student. We have things to do all day, and to me that makes a huge difference. And that's why I feel like there's been acceleration so much for the people in the course, as well as myself, just this past couple months being able to be exposed to these teachings. Not to mention the fact that Dr. Pillai is empowering this right now. He is in the mode of timeline jumping, and when we ride that wave, when he is in the height of it, then we receive that we receive that empowerment and that energy too. So process meditation workbook. So not only are you doing the meditation that helps deeply uproot these feeders, but now you're going to kind of more of a mental level write them out. Okay, this is what happens this is my habit in the feeder, and we give you kind of questions to help you figure that out, help you find where these feeders are impacting your life the most, so that you can start unraveling them too. Module 5, putting it all into practice. We've given you all the information. We've helped you break it down over the modules, as well as the 8 weeks of live calls. And kind of at the end of those 8 weeks, there's a moving forward period. And that's why we give you all of this information on how to we just take the guesswork out of everything you need to do. There's a daily practice, there's activity workbook, there's a daily planner to outline your day. There's basically every tool you'll need. The beautiful thing about this course being taught to a different group first is we were able to work through all the bugs and work through all of the, oh, this would be helpful for somebody, oh, this would be helpful for somebody. So by the end of the course being taught by the other group, to the other group, we realized what everyone needed to be successful, and we put it into this course. So you guys get the benefit of having guinea pigs from the other course, so that we have a more solid program for you to really make the most of. Here is a picture of it's kind of a little hard to see, but it's a picture of the workbook that you can use on a daily basis, which has everything you need, from setting your goals, reminders about when the hora is, what activities to do during those horas, how your emotions, taking note of your emotions during that hora so you can see patterns of how the planets impact you personally, noting the energy of the moon and the star. So again, you can take advantage of moving with the flow of those celestial beings as opposed to opposing them. And then there's also a few different times of the day that you want to avoid doing anything important, called Rahu Kala, or poison time, or danger time. So that's all on this workbook. So program support, this is our premier program right now in terms of helping people take the next step. There were 8 calls. There was one last week which really just introduced you to the website. The first teaching call is happening this Saturday, August 2nd at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So if you register before then, won't have missed any of the teacher calls. And it goes for 7 more weeks. So it is a lot of time to be able to absorb these teachings, ask the questions. If you felt overwhelmed at all during the webinar today of, oh, do I have questions? What can I do? When you're in this course, it just takes all of that away. We have amazing people on our email support. We have great teachers on a weekly basis who will help guide you, go into more depth of these teachings. So not only are we giving Dr. Pillai's teachings, the core teachings, but we're also taking them and breaking them down for you on a more human level. That's how I think of it. As a teacher, he's far beyond my comprehension of what he knows and says, and what I do is take that and kind of interpret it into my brain and try to spread it out, try to reteach it in a way that feels like it is more attainable, and that helps some people be able to digest the materials a little easier. So I mentioned before, we have the membership website exclusively. It's a login site that you get access to, and the community area where you're able to share with folks around the world who are also taking this course, share your experiences, ask them questions of what they're going through. And the uniqueness about this program, which is never going to happen again, is that we're giving live calls. This is a program that will be available after the fact, after these calls are over, but it'll be an online course and that's it. Right now you have the support of teachers that you will never have again. For the same price, we're not going to change the price. This is just a bonus that if you register by tomorrow, basically, or end of today, you have all those teacher calls that you're able to get all your questions answered. Just, to me, it feels more of a relief if I know I have people at hand to be able to inquire with so that I can make the most of the program. That gives me peace of mind. So that's why we did it. And like I said, that's not going to happen again after this course is over. It'll all be online, self-guided, and you pretty much do the program on your own. So I would take advantage of this opportunity if you are interested in joining this program. And it is a lot of information. They seem like simple concepts, but there is a lot to go over and a lot to absorb. And if it's new to you, trust me, from the first time we taught it a couple months ago, it does take some time. It does take some hand-holding if it's very new to you. But by all means, if you're a beginner, this is available to anyone. There's no it's not like you have to be studying with Dr. Pillai at any certain time to take this course. So one of the great things about this program too is that when we first released it a few weeks ago, it was $500. And Dr. Pillai, I wrote him an email and I said, this is the course, and we had it. We literally released it. People started buying it at $500 because it's worth every penny. And he called me and said, no, I want it less because I want more people to join. These teachings are so important that they should be received by more people. So he decided on $300, $297. so that it'd be available to more folks out there. And I was so happy about that to be able to reach more people, to make it more affordable. It is an energetic exchange to be able to pay for the course. There are plenty of free teachings, including this webinar today, that if you can't afford that this is available, that timeline jumping is available to you. But if you can put yourself into this course, there's something about the commitment of registration that makes a difference and helps to shift your reality. I've noticed that with many different things. As soon as I register, something happens. The course begins inside of me. So we thank Dr. Pillai for his compassion in lowering the price and being able to help us bring it to more people and share amongst a larger community. So I invite you to begin the journey to mastery of time today and join Dr. Pillai's Timeline Jumping program. The first teaching call is August 2nd, 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. If you would like to be part of these calls, which I encourage you to do, please register before then so that we can make sure that you are in the program and there are no glitches. Now, like I said, this will never happen again. We will not have additional calls, and this is where it's at. This is the foundational course, and that is why we're taking out the time and energy to put the focus on it right now. So please, if this is of interest to you, I would encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. So now I am going to open for questions and answers, and Rama will get some questions from the chat room and pipe them over to me. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for some questions, I'll just mention that there is a 14-day money-back guarantee for the program. If you are unsatisfied for any reasons, there's no questions asked and you will get a full refund. Dr. Pillai, on the last Hangout that he did, mentioned he has personally given you a guarantee that if you do these teachings, he guarantees that they will work. And that's our part. Our part is actually doing them. He's guaranteeing that they work. He's not guaranteeing them that we do them, right? So that's his personal commitment to your transformation, to our transformation. Like, he creates these programs and he is committed and knows in his heart that they work as long as we work them. If you have any other questions that don't get answered today, please, you can always ask us and email us, office@pillaicenter.com, and we will be available to you for those. So while we're waiting, let's see if we have any questions on the line that I can answer for you. You can ask anything about the program itself or the 5 steps that we learned today. So one question I have is, what are the teaching calls about? Why are they so great? Why are they important? What happens on the teaching calls is we open up the call, we go through the content that's broken out for that week. And as I mentioned, throughout the 8 weeks, we've segmented all of the content. So in the course, it mentions what each week is going to cover. And week 1, we covered kind of getting to know your website, which is pretty intuitive, so you didn't miss anything. Week 2 is going to go into, you know what? I don't remember. I think it's setting your goals. I have to look it up. I think it's setting your goals and taking that as the first step. And we go into, so the teacher call, and so at that point, the teacher will help us work through setting goals and getting familiar with how we do that. In week 2, we go in, yes, I'm sorry, I'm looking at it now. Week 2, we start setting our goals, creating an outrageous life, setting the foundation by using the teachings that we learned from Dr. Pillai. In week 3, we start understanding time, the daily time energies. So we went through all of these times energies, but it's a lot, right? So we dedicate a call to understanding this, giving some additional support, allowing you to ask any questions that you have. Then we move into feeders. We talk about the different feeders. I think we actually spend 2 weeks on the daily energies, the planet, the celestial energies, the daily time energies, and we spend 2 weeks on the feeders, going through each of them to give more of an in-depth understanding of what they are and how you can relate to them. And then we go into week 7. We're into fine-tuning our goals, right? We set our goals in the beginning. A few weeks have gone by, where we're at. Let's get back to that. Let's fine-tune those and get on track. And kind of Kaizen or tweak where we've been and how we can move forward powerfully. And week 8, we're putting it into practice. We're integrating everything we learned so that we can create lasting results. So that's the 8 weeks in a nutshell. The first week, which you missed, was, like I said, getting familiar with the website and having the students start learning or start watching and learning the core teachings. So you didn't miss anything in the sense that you jump in right now and you'd start learning the core teachings. It's an hour video with Dr. Pillai, and you start getting familiar with all of that. So you're going to be relearning that in different ways in smaller bite-sized pieces over the next 7 weeks. So you, like I said, you didn't miss anything. You really can jump in and take it from there. So the calls, we start with those topics that I mentioned, whatever the topic is for the week. We do the meditation together, which is really nice because we empower it together in community. Think of 100 people meditating together. It's not just you in your room. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of synergy that gets created. And then we have question and answer. So if you have anything you'd like to share, sometimes people share their experiences, which is very inspiring. Sometimes people have questions. I've tried this, didn't work. What do I do? And we work it out. We are very committed to making sure that you get the most out of this program. So that's what's great about the teacher calls. Okay. Question. Could you explain again the connection between being aware and new timeline you achieved? By being aware and new timeline you achieved, you're making it sound like it's in past tense, so I'm not quite sure, but I'll answer the best as I think I know how. And by being aware, we're breaking the constructs of our current time, right? Because oftentimes our life will happen. It'll just go on, and we're in kind of an autopilot. By stopping that and becoming aware, we're able to break that pattern. And when we break that pattern, we can timeline jump more easily. So that's the importance of being aware. That's the importance of taking stock in your day throughout the day. What am I thinking? What am I doing? Am I remembering my goals? Oh yeah, this is what I want. Right? So you're breaking that pattern, and that's helping you jump timelines. Another question. If I miss a live call, can I listen to the recording later the same day? Very good question. Yes, definitely. Everything is recorded if you miss the live call, so don't worry about that. And if you listen to the live call and you have questions, just write them in to the support desk and they'll get answered anyway. So if you can't attend live, even though it's really fun to do that, you can definitely listen afterwards. And they're immediately available. So within an hour or so, you'll be able to listen to the recording if you missed it. So I think that's our questions for now. Are there any more I can help folks with? I'm really happy to be able to provide this information, and like I said, if you have any inclination to join this program, I would encourage you to do it, because we are not going to have live calls again, and there is a 14-day money-back guarantee, so you really don't have anything to lose, and we make sure that you are happy with the program itself, and we want to see you change your life. We want to see you timeline jump. That's one last call for questions. Okay, one more question. So are you saying I can also review week 1 materials on my own to catch up if I jump in the course now, or any week for that matter after the start date? Yes, absolutely. Uh, Dia, sorry, Dia, Dia. Everything's available on the website, so you don't miss anything. It is a lifetime website. You will have access to it forever. So there are core teachings, and once you access and go through those teachings, you're able to review them whenever you want. Each week, we just go deeper into those core teachings. There's not actually a new set of teachings from Dr. Pillai in terms of a whole new recording, or for example. So you have plenty of time to catch up. You didn't miss anything other than the people who joined last week. They started reviewing the material already, and you didn't yet. But if you do that now, it literally takes an hour to go through the initial material. What's going to come in these coming weeks that you didn't miss is going more deep into the different areas of that material. Okay, so you can join now. You can spend the next hour watching the video and downloading all of the audio so that you can do them as you go. And then tomorrow's call, you're going to jump in with setting your goals, so you missed nothing. Another question, can we get support in setting out our targets? Yes, absolutely. So that's what also the calls would be helpful for, being able to set your goals, setting your targets. Venkatesh is the teacher who's going to be guiding tomorrow's call. He is great at setting goals. He's really good at helping people to focus in. So you can jump on that call and you can ask that question. And it's very common, hey, I think I want this. How do I define what it is that looks like for me? Kind of cut through the junk and get to what it is that your goal is. She also says, I do not always find it easy so much. I want to achieve how to break them down. Exactly. It is a lot to achieve. So we have the goal setting worksheets in the program, and that was an added bonus too. It's an exercise that you would go through that helps you break that down. What is it that you want to achieve? Pick just a few items, or pick your top 1 or 2 or 3, no more than 3 areas of life you want to change right now, and then we walk you through the exercise that helps you identify the passion behind what it is you want to create. So you'll have that exercise. You can get going on it right now. There's tips for goal setting, and then of course the call tomorrow will focus entirely on it. So thank you very much for those questions. Those are very good. Very useful. There was a question yesterday asked, what happens after the 8 weeks? Well, the program is still there. It's yours. You can review this material. It's not something that stops. It is a lifestyle change that you're going to be making by learning these techniques, by setting it up, and then you're just going to keep getting better and better and better at it. And that's what I noticed with myself. Dr. Pillai gave out these teachings, and then weeks went by, and I kept adding things to it. Okay, and that's why this course is really great, because we laid it out in a way that did that for you, whereas the first time it was taught, everything was pushed out there at first, and then the students had to figure out, what am I doing and how am I going to break this down? Here, because as a student, the teachers who created this course went through it, we did it in a way that was more systematic and more supportive for your journey and your learning process. And that's why you have this added benefit of this course already being taught, and kind of we learned through what was needed in order to make it the most it can be, giving you all the resources that you absolutely need to be supportive, all these worksheets, all these downloads that you can use. It's all really there for you. So as you learn each technique and kind of go deeper week by week, you'll just keep doing that. Right? You'll just keep adding on and making your practice stronger and stronger. Okay, so I think that is everything. I think we've answered all the questions. If something pops into your mind later on today, please email us, office@pillaicenter.com. I really hope that I see most of you, all of you, in the program. I will be guiding some of the teaching calls as well. I love the feeders. I love teaching that and kind of going into the depth of like the psychology of what we do to ourselves. So I'll probably be guiding those calls, and like I said, Venkatesh is doing tomorrow's call on goal setting, and we're just going to have a lot of fun and bring you through these amazing teachings with Dr. Pillai. And looks like no more questions. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I will hopefully see you in the program tomorrow. If not, you have 5 techniques that you can start with right now to start improving your life in timeline jumping. So happy timeline jumping, and we will talk to you soon. Namaste.